Hi everybody, I'm back to read some more stories today. How's everybody doing today? I thought today it would be fun to read some stories about some stuffed animal friends. I have a few at my house. Here's a sweet dog that you might have a stuffed animal that you sleep with, or maybe one that you play with, or it's your special friend. This is my special friend, my dog. Here's a teddy bear that my daughter had when she was very, very little. It's a very sweet little teddy bear, and here's one that I bet all of you know. Does anybody know the name of this bear? You're right. This is Corduroy the bear, and the very first story that I'm going to read today is about Corduroy. Are you ready? Corduroy. I bet many of you heard this story before. Corduroy is a bear who once lived in the toy department of a big store. Day after day, he waited with all of the other animals and dolls for somebody to come along and take him home. He really wanted a home. The store was always filled with shoppers buying all sorts of things, but no one ever seemed to want a small bear in green overalls. Then one morning, a little girl stopped and looked straight into Corduroy's eyes. "Oh, Mommy," she said, "look, there's the very bear I've always wanted." "Not today, dear," her mother said. "I've spent too much money already. Besides, he doesn't even look new. He's lost a button on one of his shoulder straps." Poor Corduroy. He didn't know he'd lost a button. Corduroy watched them sadly as they walked away. "I didn't know I'd lost a button," he said to himself. "Tonight, I'll go and see if I can find it." Oh, I hope he can, don't you? Late that evening, when all the shoppers had gone and the doors were shut and locked, Corduroy carefully climbed down from his shelf and began searching everywhere on the floor for his lost button. I hope he can find it. Suddenly, he felt the floor moving under him. Quite by accident, he had stepped onto the escalator, and it was going up. The escalator are those moving stairs at the department store, and they were taking Corduroy up, up, up. Could this be a mountain, he wondered? I think I've always wanted to climb a mountain. That's not a mountain, is it? It's an escalator, but Corduroy's only a stuffed bear. He doesn't know that. He stepped off the escalator as it reached the next floor, and there, before his eyes, was a most amazing sight. Tables and chairs and lamps and sofas and rows of beds. "This must be a palace," said Corduroy. "I've always wanted to live in a palace." Is that a palace? No, it's a store, but Corduroy doesn't know that. He wandered around admiring the furniture. "This must be a bed," he said. "I've always wanted to sleep in a bed," and he crawled up onto a large, thick mattress. All at once, he saw something small and round. "Why, here's my button," he cried, and he tried to pick it up. But like all the other buttons on the mattress, it was sewn down tight. Oh no. He yanked and he pulled with both of his paws until pop! Off came the button, and off the mattress Corduroy toppled. He fell into a big lamp on the floor, and it went bang! Oh no, what a crash! Corduroy didn't know it, but there was someone else awake in the store. The night watchman was going on his rounds the floor above. When he heard the crash, he came dashing down the escalator. "Now, who in the world did that? Somebody must be hiding around here," said the night watchman. "I wonder if he'll find Corduroy." He flashed his light under and over the sofas and beds until he came to the biggest bed of all, and there he saw two fuzzy ears sticking up from the covers. Whose ears are those? Can you guess? You're right. Corduroy's. "Hello," he said. "Now, how did you get upstairs, little bear?" The watchman tucked Corduroy underneath his arm, and he carried him down the escalator. And he set him on the shelf in the toy department with all of the other animals and toys. Poor Corduroy didn't have his button, and he was back on the shelf. Corduroy was just waking up when the first customers came into the store in the morning, and there, looking at him with a wide, warm smile, was that same girl he'd seen only the day before. "I'm Lisa," she said, "and you're going to be my very own bear. Last night I counted the money I saved in my piggy bank, and Mommy said I could bring you home." "Oh boy, Corduroy's going to have a home. Yay!" "Shall I put him in a box for you?" the sales lady asked. "Oh, no, thank you," answered Lisa. "I'm going to carry him home in my arms." She ran all the way up 4 flights of stairs into her family's apartment and straight to her bedroom. Corduroy blinked. There was a chair and a chest of drawers, and alongside a girl-sized bed was a little bed just the right size for him. The room was small, nothing like that enormous palace in the department store. "This must be home," said Corduroy. "I know I've always wanted a home." Lisa sat down with Corduroy on her lap, and she began to sew a button on his overalls. "I like you just the way you are," she said, "but I think you'll be much more comfortable with another button." "You must be a friend," said Corduroy. "I've always wanted a friend." "Me too," said Lisa. And then she gave Corduroy a great big hug. If you have a stuffed animal that you love, maybe you could give it a great big hug too. I have another story. Now, Corduroy is a story you probably have heard before, but I have a story that I don't think anyone has heard before. It's an older book, and its name is Dogger. It's also about a stuffed animal that was very important to a little boy. And let's hear it now. This is actually one of my favorite stories. I think you're going to like it. Once upon a time, there was a soft brown dog toy named Dogger. One of his ears pointed up, and the other ear flopped over. His fur was all worn in places because he had been quite old. He belonged to a little boy named Dave. Dave was very fond of Dogger. He took him everywhere. Sometimes he gave him rides in his wagon. Sometimes he pulled him along on a leash made out of a string like a real dog. When it was cold, he wrapped him up in a bit of a blanket. Now and again, Dave's mom and dad would have Dogger say Dogger was getting much too dirty, and they would show Dave how to wash him in a bowl of soapy water, and then they would hang him up to dry on the clothesline. Sometimes when my stuffed animals get dirty, I put them in the washing machine. I think they washed Dogger by hand, though. Dave's baby brother Joe liked hard toys. He liked putting them in his mouth and biting on them because he was getting teeth. Dave's big sister Bella took 7 teddies to bed with her every night. She had to sleep right up against the wall to stop herself from falling out. But Dave liked only his dog, Dogger. One afternoon, Dave and Mom set out to collect Bella from school. Mom took Joe in the stroller, and Dave took Dogger. Next to the school, where the moms waited by the playground and some of the dads waited by the playground, some men were working with ladders, putting up a colored flag. Mom said there was going to be a summer fair to get money to buy things for the school. Dave pushed Dogger up against the railings to show him what was going on. That looked very exciting to Dave. Just then, the children started to come out of school. An ice cream man was coming around the corner. Bella ran up with her satchel flying. Mom, can we have an ice cream?" Mom gave her some money for 2 cones. Joe didn't have a whole lot of ice cream to himself yet, so he could share his. They only needed one for Dave and one for Bella. On the way home, Dave walked beside the stroller, giving licks of his ice cream to his baby brother Joe. Joe kicked his feet apart and shouted for more licks. More! At supper, Dave was rather quiet. In the bath, he was even quieter. And at bedtime, he said, "I want Dogger." But Dogger was nowhere to be found. Oh no! Mama looked under the bed. She looked behind the cupboard. She searched in the kitchen and underneath the stairs. Dave watched anxiously through the banisters. Joe watched through the bars of his crib. Oh no, I hope they find Dogger. Bella joined in the search to look for Dogger. She turned out her own toy box, but he wasn't there. When Dad came home, he looked for Dogger too. He searched in the shed. He looked down on the garden path with a flashlight. But Dogger was quite lost. Dave was very sad, and when he went to bed, Bella kindly lent him one of her teddies to go to sleep with. But it was not the same as Dogger. Dave kept waking up all night, missing him. The next day was Saturday, and they all went to the school summer fair. The playground was filled with stands and children having a lot of fun. There was a fancy dress parade. Look at all the children dressed up. There were games and an egg and spoon race and a wheelbarrow race and a race with mommies and daddies. It was a very, very fun fair. Bella was very good at races. She won the three-legged race with her friend Barbara. "Wouldn't you like to go in for a race?" she asked Dave. But Dave didn't feel like racing. He was missing Dogger too much. Poor Dave. Then another very exciting thing happened to Bella. She won first prize in a raffle. It was a huge yellow teddy wearing a beautiful blue bow. He was almost as big as Dave. Dave didn't like that teddy at all. At that moment, he didn't like Bella very much either because she kept on winning things. He went off on his own to look at all the stands. One lady had a toy stand full of knitted ducks and cars and baby dolls and bonnets. And there, in the very back, behind all of the other toys, do you see it? It was Dogger. Dogger was on the lady's stand. He was wearing a sticker that said 50 cents. That's an amount of money. There were a lot of people around the stand. Dave tried to explain to the lady that that was his dog who had gotten lost and somehow gotten put on the stand by mistake. But she wasn't listening. He looked in his pocket. He only had 10 cents and that wasn't enough. He ran to find Mom and Dad to ask them to buy Dogger back for him. Dave went everywhere in the crowd, but he didn't see Mom and Dad. He thought he was going to cry. At last, he found Bella by the cakes. When she heard about Dogger, she and Dave ran back to the toy stand as fast as they could. But something terrible had happened. Dogger had just been bought by a little girl. She was already walking off with him, and Dave began to cry. Wait, that's my dog. That's my Dogger. Bella ran after him and tried to explain that Dogger really belonged to her brother Dave, and could they please buy him back? But the little girl said no. She said that she had bought Dogger with her own money, and she wanted him, and she held on to him very tightly. Dave cried and cried, and the little girl started to cry too. But then, out of the corner of her eye, she caught sight of Bella's big yellow teddy. She stopped crying and she put her hand out to touch that beautiful teddy bear. Then Bella did something very kind. "Would you swap this teddy for my brother's dog?" she asked. Right away, the little girl stopped crying and she began to smile. She held out Dogger to Dave and she took that great big teddy instead and she went off with it in her arms. And then Dave smiled. He hugged Dogger and he hugged his sister Bella. "Thank you, Bella," he said. That night, Dave and Dogger were in bed. Bella was practicing somersaults in her bed. "Will you miss that big teddy?" Dave asked his sister Bella. "No," said Bella. "I didn't really like him that much anyway. His eyes were big. Anyway, if I had another teddy in my bed, there wouldn't be room for me." And Dave and Bella and Dogger lived happily ever after. I hope that your bears and your dogs and whatever stuffed animals you have are all in your bed so you can hug them very tightly. And if they get lost, maybe you'll have someone as kind as Dave's sister Bella help you find them. Goodbye, everyone. Have a good day.